we've given them the fish for a further 12 years. We've paid them £800 million. You know, we can see right now behind us a French naval vessel escorting them in. At every level, this is ridiculous. We should be demanding a refund.
Nigel Farage has declared that Britain is in peril, as the Reform UK leader witnessed another boatload of migrants crossing the Channel this morning, and has called on Emmanuel Macron to provide a refund for money given to France to help stop Channel migrant crossings. GBNews' Home and Security editor Mark White joined Nigel Farage on a fishing boat off the coast of Dover to get a sense of the scale of the migrant crisis up close. As the morning started, Nigel hooked more than just the headlines.
Where we are, we're on a fishing boat in the middle of the Channel this morning. We've been kindly invited on board this boat by the Reform leader Nigel Farage, along with a few of my colleagues from His Majesty's Press Corps. And you can see Nigel there just fishing, we're told, for herring. Good morning to you, Nigel.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thanks for inviting us along here. Oh, you got one, have you?
I have, yeah.
Well, now you can see Nigel's rod bending there. Is that a decent sized one, do you think?
It's not that big, but it's fish. Live television, and there we are.
Oh, there you go.
2 very small mackerel. But hey, you know what? They're not big enough to keep.
No, you'll be putting them back.
Yeah, I want bigger ones, really. But anyway.
And I mean, obviously, on these kind of trips out, you've seen it time and time again, where the small boats come across as well, and very likely today, because it's a red day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very, very calm day, and of course the irony that it's today that President Macron and Prime Minister Starmer will sit down and we will accept a deal of some kind given to us by the French. And I think the real annoyance, and what I was trying to say in the House of Commons yesterday, but of course was shouted down, is that we voted Brexit to get back control of our borders, not to have terms dictated to us by an increasingly arrogant French president.
Well, we'll speak to you more in depth next hour, but can I just, before we come away from you, Nigel, ask about this report that suggests that maybe 50 migrants a week could be returned to France. Does that sound like a deterrent to you?
Well, I tell you something, if that's what the Prime Minister comes with today, if that's the conclusion, then it is a complete insult. It will be a total humiliation for the British Prime Minister. I mean, you know, that would be probably fewer than 5% of those that are likely to come this year.
OK, Nigel Farage, thank you very much for the moment. And as I say, we will speak to Nigel in a bit more depth once he's caught a few more fish. But that was good timing, wasn't it, to catch a few mackerel for you live on GB News. As I say, we're in the middle of the Channel at the moment. A couple of migrant boats have set off, so they may well be headed in this general direction at some point. We'll keep you up to date if they do cross our paths, and we'll come back to you live.
The excursion comes less than a week since the first anniversary of Keir Starmer's time in power, the day GB News revealed the number of Channel migrant crossings in the year since Sir Keir Starmer entered number 10 is 40% higher than those made during Rishi Sunak's last 365 days in Downing Street, with more than 44,000 migrants having reached British shores via small boats, including 20,600 so far this calendar year alone. Nigel Farage himself spoke up about the UK's apparent migrant crisis in Parliament yesterday during a fiery Prime Minister's questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The main reason this country decided in 2020.
Some of you want to get in a little later. If this takes forever, you won't get in. Nigel Farage.
Thank you. The main reason this country wisely voted for Brexit back in 2016, and that included millions of Labour supporters, is because we wanted to take back control of our borders so that we and we alone could decide who comes and settles in our country. Does the Prime Minister understand that that demand today is even greater than it was back in 2016, and that we demand, the country demands, that you say to the French President,
Will you shut up?
Don't be so disrespectful.
you say to the French President, we will not accept undocumented males across the English Channel, and that you are not dictated to by an increasingly arrogant anti-Brexit French president.
Mr. Speaker, we are fixing the mess that we inherited. We are working with other countries to ensure that we take the measures necessary to stop people crossing the Channel. They are serious answers to serious problems. His proposal for 10 years, wagging the Tory dog, has been to break everything and claim that's how you fix things, to stick two fingers up at your neighbours and then expect them to work with us. And he votes against the Borders Bill, which gives more powers to our law enforcement to deal with security at our border. And Mr. Speaker, the reason for that is he has no interest in fixing the problem because he wants to milk it and exploit it. That's the truth about him and his party.
France has faced much criticism for its handling of illegal immigrants crossing the English Channel towards the UK, particularly after the UK has provided France with £770 million over the last 12 years in return for an unspecified, substantial and continuing contribution to stopping Channel migrants. Back on the English Channel, Mark White and his nautical crew had spotted a migrant boat in the distance.
We're in the separation zone at the moment between UK waters and French waters, and there is a migrant boat now under escort. You can hear the engines of our vessel going because we're just sort of repositioning our boat. We'll just give you a shot actually over there. I think you can see the French naval vessel first of all in the distance there, and then to the left of that is a small migrant boat. Listen, it's kind of difficult to pick up when we're sort of moving and bobbing about on the long end of the lens. Ben is doing his very best to try and keep that in frame for you, but I think maybe if it gets a bit closer, we'll certainly be able to get that. I should say that we're here on the invitation of the Reform leader Nigel Farage, who's just in deep conversation with other members of the press here. We might be able to just grab a quick word with him. Nigel, we just have a quick word with him before GBNews. We can see clearly you were fishing before, obviously, for mackerel.
Yes.
Now we've got the French boat and a migrant boat across there. You've seen this many times before, but it's heading in our direction.
This is a classic day in the English Channel over the last 5 years when the weather's calm, or a red day as they call it. And yes, you've got a migrant boat, and we've seen it through the binoculars. There's about 70 people on board being escorted all the way over by the French Navy, and behind us we have Border Force sitting on a 12-mile line waiting for the handover. And we've paid £800 million to the French, and this is the farce that goes on.
Now, yesterday wasn't too bad. Conspiracy theorists were saying Emmanuel Macron had had some kind of a deal to stop the boats, but clearly today we're seeing them come across. It doesn't matter what they do. You may have more French police on the beaches, but such a vast area to try and police, they're always going to get through.
So you've really got from Gravelines all the way down to Burke in the west. You've got about 100 miles of beaches from which they can take off. In addition, the further west you go, hundreds of square miles of sand dunes, of habitation, of no one living there. I mean, you'd need 10,000 troops on the beach to stop any of these boats taking off. And we've got to be honest about this. Yeah, we can be upset with the French, but it's our fault. It's our fault. You may as well have a sign on the White Cliffs of Dover which says everyone welcome. No one gets deported. We're told there might be a deal coming today where we could deport 50 a week.
Well, what do you think about this? 50 a week or whatever it is, there's still a 95% chance that you're going to get to stay if you arrive in the UK and not be returned to France. The migrants are going to take that risk, aren't they?
They're still going to come. And I've called twice now on the Prime Minister in the Commons to declare this a national security emergency. Let's not forget, it's only a few weeks ago that 3 Iranians who were going to blow up the Israeli embassy and cause mass loss of life were arrested. All 3 of them came via the English Channel. We've had the Casey report telling us that much of the grooming gang sex abuse scandal is caused by those that have come illegally into our country. We have the revelation to finish up in prison, and I think we have to go further than we've ever gone before. I don't think these young undocumented males that arrive today or any other day should be allowed to freely walk the streets of our country. I think they've got to be detained in secure accommodation, and because frankly, we are putting our nation and our people in peril.
Yet in Parliament, it seems that many people are not in the mood to listen to you and your concerns. Yesterday, of course, quite a lot of noise when you were trying to ask a question. Mic problems as well. Do you think that's cock-up or conspiracy?
No, I just think that the honourable member for Dewsbury, I have to call him that apparently, I just think that was what the microphone picked up. I mean, look, they can try and shout me down if they want to. I am convinced that this Parliament is out of touch with where a big majority of the British people are. They are outraged by the unfairness of this. They're outraged by the cost of this. They're beginning to link some of these young men with the crime wave that we're seeing in the country. It's not acceptable. We cannot have people coming in and within a couple of days walking our streets, working for Deliveroo or whatever else.
If it is just 50 a week or some figure close to that, are you going to demand that the money that we give the French should be now stopped?
Well, it's funny, I was mackerel fishing earlier. So it seems that increasingly the fish that swim within our 12-mile zone are French. All the illegal migrants that come are ours. I mean, we've given them the fish for a further 12 years. We've paid them £800 million. We can see right now behind us a French naval vessel escorting them in. At every level, this is ridiculous. We should be demanding a refund.
Okay, Nigel Farage, thank you very much for speaking to us. So, as I say, we have now one boat that is just about a mile or so away from us here. There's at least another one, maybe two boats further down towards the sort of Boulogne end, too far for us to get to. But it has all the makings of potentially another busy day in the Channel because the conditions are pretty perfect. There's not much in the way of wind that's blowing. The sea that has been pretty choppy for a number of days now is calming down quite nicely, although we're bobbing about a little bit here, I have to say. But it is, I'm told, calming down quite nicely, which allows these small Channel migrant boats to cross when conditions are pretty much flat calm like this.
Mark's vessel moved closer to the distant migrant craft to witness firsthand how the authorities handle gangs of men like these.
Yes, what we're seeing now is the handover, the Border Force vessel Hurricane that's moved in. Alongside me, of course, is Nigel Farage, who very kindly invited us on this fishing trip. And, of course, as is often the case, Nigel, we see the migrant boats in the Channel, and once again, we're seeing extraordinary scenes here.
Quite extraordinary. We have Hurricane here, the Border Force vessel, the migrant dinghy alongside. They're beginning to offload. You can see people getting on the back of it now. French naval vessel behind, one French naval rib, two Border Force ribs, and right behind another huge boat that's been employed. You can just see it now behind Border Force, and that boat is employed just to pick up the empty dinghies. The sheer amount of kit, the cost is incredible, but I've seen something today I've never seen. So this dinghy that was being escorted by the French Navy gave them 40 life jackets. There were obviously people on board without life jackets, and now, would you believe, the French Navy have collected the life jackets back. I mean, the whole thing is unbelievable.
And I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? That, the cost here, we hear an awful lot about the cost in terms of the hotels, the accommodation cost, but actually just the operation here in the Channel must be very significant.
Absolutely massive, and of course I haven't even mentioned the drone or the RAF spotter planes. I mean, just look at what you're seeing, I mean, just before your very eyes now. It is just, how many billions a year? The cost overall of this, with the hotels, with everything, with these daily operations, I don't know. No one's got a proper estimate, but it's costing us a fortune. And frankly, for the French to have been given 800 million quid to give life jackets, to escort them to Border Force, this is two governments operating together. There's no will to stop this of any kind at all.
And if we get to the point where we may overtake the 2022 figure of 46,000. I mean, you're calling for this to be declared a national emergency. Is there any sign that government will listen to that?
Well, I'm calling for it specifically to be a national security emergency, and I'm basing that on crime. I'm basing that on the increase in sexual assaults. I'm basing that on terrorism, and I can back up every single one of those statements. The country increasingly knows it, and we have a Prime Minister who is utterly flat-footed, doesn't seem to know what to do, but is frankly just going to take orders today from President Macron. I'm not even sure Westminster or Parliament or much of the mainstream media even understands the sheer anger that these scenes bring in ordinary, decent, reasonable people.
Or the very significant resources that have to be deployed for just one migrant boat. It is incredible. Nigel Farage, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. We'll continue to leave you with these shots of the Border Force vessel Hurricane and 3 rigid inflatable vessels, 2 from Border Force, 1 from the French, all there deployed to pick up 78 migrants who made that journey from France.
Mark managed to reel Nigel in for one last thought as the journey wrapped up beside the White Cliffs of Dover.
What is Nigel trying to catch, and has he had much success this morning?
Well, at the risk of disturbing him, he is having great success, actually. He's been catching herring all morning, haven't you?
Mackerel, delicious.
And bass. You were looking for bass, but you didn't find any.
No bass yet, but we've achieved the goal of the day, and I don't think you could have got a better illustration of what's happening in the Channel every single time there's a calm day than what we saw this morning. And weren't the sheer number of boats astonishing? There's one migrant dinghy boat, you've got the French naval vessel, they've launched their own rib off it, you've got Border Force, they've launched 2 ribs off, and then another boat, great big boat, just come to pick up the empties.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it, Nigel, that people don't realise when, of course, there's a lot of understandable attention given to the cost of accommodation for migrants. It's all of these wraparound services in dealing with those coming across.
Yeah, and there was the drone. We heard the drone going around as well. I mean, I wonder what the daily operational costs are. They must be absolutely enormous over the course of a year. And how classic. 78 on the boat that we looked at. 1 woman, 3 kids, 74 young undocumented males. And I don't know how many times I have to say this, Mark, but this genuinely is a national security emergency. Our country is being endangered by some of these people.
And once again today you've called for that. Thank you, Nigel Farage, for inviting us and some members of the written press here today as well. And we just want to try and find out buckets behind you, Ben, just to confirm that there are indeed some mackerel in there. You can see them. We'll leave you with that lovely shot of all those mackerel that's going to make someone a lovely dinner later on.